Dearest Mother, I am feeling fine. Hope you are the same. Everything is okay at this end. Time sure does fly. Yesterday was my 4th anniversary here. But I got no cake. Ha ha. I guess everything would be all right if I could just see you and give you a great big hug. I hope your cold is better. Your loving son, Robbie.
Birdman of Alcatraz is a great study of character. It's the development of a character played by Burt Lancaster, where he is a very staunch, even unlikable man at the beginning. He's very critical, unfriendly, self-centered, but interesting, very interesting. And you wonder what he's about. And you finally do find out he develops into somebody throughout the film entirely different, where he does become more sympathetic, and there's a reason. And Burt Lancaster, he is the whole film.
Runty, the hell are you doing back here? Too tough out there, huh? Come back for a little prison security.
And it's sort of a study in keep trying and don't give up. I was the camera operator on the film. My job is the maneuvering of the camera, where I had to work out the composition mainly with the cinematographer Bernie Guffey and also the director John Frankenheimer.
Robert F. Stroud.
The lead character, Robert Stroud, is a reenactment of a real living person who spent roughly 50 years in a penitentiary. He killed somebody, he killed 2 people. He was really cruel and had an awful temper, was disrespectful to the guards, and they in turn turned on him whenever. In fact, he killed one guard, stabbed him. His temper flared, and he killed him, and that's when he was condemned to death, whereby he was initially condemned to life in prison, but he was waiting after killing the guard to be executed. And his mother did all she could to help Stroud. She even went to the president's wife, Woodrow Wilson's wife, to get the death penalty amended. And she did, she succeeded. And he started to fall in love with birds. Initially, he had only one, and he got another one, and he started raising the birds, building cages out of wooden boxes. And he labored 24 hours a day with the birds. I mean, he really, that was his life. And there was a period where they got sick, and he found a cure for them. He researched very thoroughly. He read everything that was available in the prison library that helped him develop bird knowledge, how to take care of them when they got sick, and even discover medications for the birds. He became the leading authority on bird training and wrote quite a few books about different bird maladies, and he developed into a master of bird life. To be a true story, it's hard to believe, but it did happen. And the birds made Stroud more human. The birds made it work. There was an author who took to his cause also. His name was Tom Gaddis, and he wrote very favorably about the Birdman, which made Stroud even more famous, and that's why he was able to get released from Alcatraz, and he was sent to a safer or more comfortable environment where he could lead a normal life, still incarcerated, but in a more comfortable environment. And there's a marvelous scene at the end where he is leaving Alcatraz. You see the boat coming from the rock, as they called Alcatraz, coming toward a wharf, and he comes off. He's handcuffed, but there's a relief, a big relief, and there's a marvelous scene where Tom Gaddis, who helped him get to this point, meets him, and it's very touching. They hug each other, and he's taken away in a car, and we know that he's on his way to a more favorable environment for the rest of his life, because he's a better man now also.
Tom, you know what they used to call Alcatraz in the old days? Why? Bird Island.
He is now a changed man and appreciative of what he's looking forward to. The Birdman of Alcatraz was a very difficult film in many ways to complete. First of all, it started off with a different director, a very well-known, respected director, Charles Crichton, who has a great reputation. But there was conflict between Burt Lancaster and Charlie Crichton, and so he lasted about 2 weeks. But before he left, before the change was made, Charlie Crichton changed cinematographers. After about a week and a half, Crichton replaced John Alton, the first cinematographer, with Burnett Guffey, who stayed on the film throughout the whole picture. But then again, the producer, Harold Hecht, the producer replaced Charles Crichton with John Frankenheimer, whom he had worked with prior on a film. And from that point on, we started off like a normal production. But Burt Lancaster, I'll use the word overpowered Frankenheimer. And he and Hecht were very close because of dollars and cents. Burt Lancaster produced the film with his two partners, Harold Hecht and Hill. But the final word really was Lancaster, without a doubt. He was very cooperative, but he had the final word. And he was very influential. And Frankenheimer was from television, and only recently did a film called The Young Savages under the Hecht-Hill-Lancaster banner. And then came the Birdman of Alcatraz, and of which Burt Lancaster, who was known for having the last word and being, I'll use the word helpful in his mind, but useful too. He really was, he had a very good sense. He was very bright, and had a good sense of drama. And everybody got along well, and it was a very tedious production. There was a lot of very sensitive moments throughout the whole picture. And as the camera operator, I had to personally become part of all that. It was really a pleasure to work with all these people that I've just mentioned, but they each had ideas that sometimes a little bit of conflict to win out. And I had to conform to either the new director or the new cinematographer, and it took a while to get used to, not to alienate them, because they each had unique ideas. And Harold Hecht, the producer, a very good producer, he straightened out a lot of it by being the go-between. And so it really was a picture with a lot of personalities learning how to work together, and which happens on a lot of films. But on this one, it was so special. The scenes were so intimate, which you will see, or which I'll explain later. The development of the character of Robert Stroud, the Birdman of Alcatraz. We did it. The film was shot, and rightfully so, in black and white. Color would have interfered with the mood of the picture. In photographing it, we had to make certain that the actor stood out and not the background, and that's that. Bernie Guffey was very good at that. He was a very contrasty cinematographer. I had worked with him quite a bit, and several films with him, and he did not make photography the focal point, as opposed to the photography helped tell the story, and he did it magnificently. In fact, he was up for an Academy Award for his work. And I would say 50% of the picture is done in tight close-up or tight shot, and to really see into the thinking mechanism of the character and pick up their reactions, their thinking, had a lot of mood, actor's mood in the film. It could have been done in color, but at that time the color film was not as sensitive as it is now, and you had to use large lights. Large lights, then you now generate a lot of heat, and that would not be comfortable around the birds. They could not tolerate the heat, so that's a kind of a reason, another reason to do it in black and white. But also black and white, which I love black and white, and you tell a different story in black and white. And Bernie Guffey, he was considered a low-key cinematographer in those days, and he did a lot of character lighting, his films. That was his forte. And he was a wonderful person to be around also. So we wanted to give it character, but not steal from the action, from the dialogue, from the acting. It had to have character, which I think it did. But not sketchy lighting. You had to see everything, which I think you did, and follow the formula, rather than one scene being bright and the other not. You couldn't do that.
Hey, did you hear that, you cons? President Wilson commuted Stroud for life.
You had to stay with that brief moment because the Birdman was moving around a little bit in his position.
Well, I'll be damned. She pulled it off.
And he'd lean into a light and out of the light into another one. And so his body language would take us to the proper lighting that was considered at that moment. It was very difficult to get lights in the proper positions because we're in like a 10 by 12 foot cell.
Cold?
and we had to make it look like it was a tight area. And I did that in compressing the lenses. The type of lens I use compressed everything. It wasn't a wide angle that spreads. I used longer length lenses that made it work, which made it difficult for focus. The assistant cameraman really had to be on the ball, and because there was limited focus carry from one person to another.
Just put your finger on his feet.
What kind of a bird is that?
Sparrow.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah. Well, it must have taken great patience to train them. I admire that.
And I can keep him, sir?
And then again, while we're working it out, the actor, Burt Lancaster, he wanted to go. And so there was always kind of, not a conflict, but an anxiety. Can we go? Can we go? And either we were working out something, and nobody was a prima donna as opposed to getting the job done properly. I think it really was an extremely well thought of film. Even though we did not have a completed script in the filming, it was modified, continually modified, and a lot of rewrite. And the writer was always on the set. He was there changing things every moment. It needed to be, because the birds made us do something where we'd get something where the bird would guide us to, wait, we should have a close-up now, or a two-shot, or whatever it is. And it was unique letting a couple of birds guide us into the way it should look, or the moment. I say that jokingly, but it was the truth.
Don't be afraid.
The birds had to be taught what to do. We had a marvelous trainer named Mr. Canard. It's strange, Canard in French is a bird. And he did an amazing job in training these birds, the canaries and sparrows, I believe, yes. And he took many months before we even went into production to train the birds to do things. One wouldn't think birds could be taught that. I mean, I wouldn't mind being called a bird brain after seeing the way these birds performed. And it was really a pleasure to be with somebody as talented as Mr. Canard was. And then we all had to be very respectful of when he called for quiet, to give respect to the birds and not to interrupt them. He was the premier person in the making of the film. I'll use that loosely, but we needed him because those birds performed so well. One group could do one kind of a position or do something. Another group, he had them all grouped. It really was a story in itself of the coordinating the different birds. Oh, we had 100 at a time, and also that had to be done on the next stage where they were kept, because the dialogue scenes were, the birds were tweaking all the time, so the noise they would make if they were on the same stage. So it was a question of running back and forth from stage 8 to stage 9, and it really was a complicated maneuvering to get to get each scene.
You don't want to be a jailbird all your life, do you? Hmm? You're a high-balling sparrow. So you fly high, old cock. Go out there and bite the stars, for me.
scenes with Burt Lancaster, particularly, where they related to each other, almost spoke to each other, very touching. And I don't think any film has had a relationship with such a small little animal you can pick up in the palm of your hand and communicate with. The birds did understand. It was just amazing. And it was, in a sense, it was a tedious film for everybody to work on because we had to get the bird, the scenes with the birds. I had to capture them while they were coaxed into do something, and not to be interrupted. And which really, it was done masterfully. And I compliment everybody in the crew. We had a very respectful crew. They knew the uniqueness of directing a bird, and but it was done so well. In the film, you'll see that the birds are photographed very, very carefully to capture the right moment. But one moment we didn't have was the birth of a bird hatching from an egg. And that had to be done in post-production because you can wait all day for a bird to break through the shell of an egg and have a whole crew stand by and just look at an egg being hatched, a bird being hatched from an egg is not very economical, but we did, and that was I didn't do that. That was done by a special crew.
That's the island of Alcatraz. There's a man leaving there today after 17 years imprisonment. His name is Robert Stroud. He spent most of his life behind bars, including 43 years in solitary confinement.
The picture takes place over a period of 50 years. He starts as a younger man, but Burt at that time probably was 45, 50 years old. And we had to make him look much younger. So it was actually tougher to make him more youthful at the beginning of the film than to age him. And fortunately, we had a very talented, one of Hollywood's, if not the best, makeup man named Robert Schiffer, who was an expert with women. Rita Hayworth, he really, women just, they'd go out of the way to try and get him because he made them look great. He really came in handy. And Schiffer was an expert at wigs and things like that. The Birdman, he was losing his hair at the latter part of the film, balding spots. And Schiffer was an expert at that also. And we were very lucky. He helped make those moments very real. And also the makeup was very tough for Burt Lancaster. He had to withstand long makeup in the morning, get there early, and put on the younger makeup or the older makeup. And throughout the picture, he really was almost a captive in the makeup chair. You get there very early in the morning, and makeup could be 1 or 2 hours. And they had to be touched up after lunch. It really was a very important area of filmmaking that helped make it real, make the moments true. And the black and white did help make it more feasible. It gave more character to the actors, aging, and aging. And Burt Lancaster did a brilliant job of aging himself, and his shoulders, he had to stoop his shoulders a bit. He really was anxious to do it right, and which made it easier. but it was a constant development between Bob Schiffer, the makeup man, and all of us others, and it just wasn't one man, one person. It was really the coordination that helped pay off on that film. The only exteriors, mainly with the Birdman, is the beginning of the film and then at the end of the film. We did go to Alcatraz and shoot that. We shot that in San Francisco. At the very end of the film, and where he meets Tom Gaddis, the author. The rest was all studio. Birdman of Alcatraz is one of my favorite films that I was a part of, mainly because what it took to make. It really was a challenge picture, but I loved the story. I loved the development of the character. I loved the music. I think it was really well done. Every actor was a gem, Carl Malden particularly.
I'll never forget you as long as I live. No matter what happens to me, no matter where I am, if I ever get a chance to punish you further, I'll do it.
But Thelma Ritter, what a wonderful woman she was.
This sentence is unspeakable. You call this justice? You don't even know the meaning of the word, sir.
And then again, Telly Savalas, who was a great character.
How many, Stroud? 2?
He made a very strong contribution to the film.
Fly, my avian friend. I give you the illusion of freedom. Enjoy it.
It really was a well-made, well-designed film in all aspects.